We have had, I think, a pretty solid couple of years here in trying to do some things to make it easier for people to grow and expand businesses here in the Commonwealth, and I'll just talk about three. One is we work collaboratively with the folks in the legislature, Speaker DeLeo and the members of the House, and Senate President Rosenberg and the members of the Senate, on a number of pieces of legislation that I think absolutely help us, help you, and help your colleagues in local government improve our capacity to serve you and grow our economy. And I'll just talk about two. One was what I call 200 pages of weed whacking, but was in fact the first update of all of our municipal operational and finance laws that we passed during this past legislative session. And while this is not the sort of thing that generates a lot of headlines, because it was pretty wonky and pretty nerdy, the simple truth is it had been 50 years since the Commonwealth had updated a lot of its municipal finance and operating and reporting laws, which translated into tons of work that had to be done at the local level for which there was very little value. And let's face it, we all know that there's an opportunity cost associated with spending a lot of time doing things that don't get you very much. And our ability to sort of work with our colleagues in local government and with our colleagues in the legislature to sweep away some of that stuff or to update it and recognize the fact that there is now an internet, which didn't exist 50 years ago, which might change some of the rules and the processes and the procedures you have to pursue with respect to notice and that type of thing, was a really big deal for folks in the local level. So big a deal that when we actually held our press conference at the State House to sign this legislation, we had over 100 communities, city councilors, city managers, mayors, select people, school committee members show up to celebrate the fact that they were finally going to have a chance to join the 21st century with respect to the way they did business. And I absolutely believe it will dramatically improve their ability to support you and to support the organizations that you work with as you go through the process of making decisions about operating and succeeding here in Massachusetts. We also passed a $1 billion economic development bill. And there are a lot of elements to that. The one thing I would say, generally speaking, with respect to thematics, is that law was about creating tools that the Commonwealth could use to support local communities and private interests as they go through the work of economic development, housing development, downtown development. And a big piece of this was about focusing on those places and those spaces where we can serve as what I would describe as the final stitching on a lot of the work that people do around commercial and industrial development in their communities. And we fully expect that this tool will be one that we will go back to over and over and over again over the course of the next few years to support your efforts and the efforts of others to continue to grow our economy from one end of the Commonwealth to the other. The other thing I will just mention briefly is we also started what we call an Open for Business program. Commonwealth of Mass is the largest landowner in the state of Massachusetts, but we've never done a very good job of creating a workable, usable inventory on all of the property that we own. Now, a lot of it is open space, and a lot of it is public parks, and a lot of it is the kind of stuff that you would always expect us to sort of treat respectfully and recognize the value and the opportunity it presents from a recreational and a natural point of view. But a lot of this space, it's not really an asset. I mean, a lot of this space literally sits on main roadways, bus lines, subway lines, off of other major roadways, and it just sits there. And it has, you know, the usual assets on a piece of property like that: beer cans, tall grass, a few burned out automobiles. And it's not doing anything. And one of the things we've talked about is creating that inventory and then making that inventory available to the public so people can take a look at it and make suggestions to us about what might be the best way to put that property to use. And we've already started to do that with a number of different sites, all the way from Belchertown to Boston. And it's our hope and our expectation that we'll continue to be able to develop a lot of these very developable sites, primarily because we're going to bring the imagination and the creativity of the private sector to the table to help us figure this out.